It's May 12th, and although I've done most of the heavy lifting as far as the food plot is concerned, I really can't start planting for another 2 to 3 weeks. A couple of reasons for this. One, the temperatures have really been cool to cold the last couple of weeks. We're still freezing at night, and the high temperatures over the past few days have ranged from about the low 40s to the low 50s, and really should have some warmer temperatures in order to plant for that. The other is that it's been a dry spring, a real dry spring. We haven't had rain for several days. Rain isn't forecast in the future for another 10 days to 2 weeks, and so it really doesn't pay to put any seeds down, food plot seeds down, because they aren't going to germinate anyway. So usually we have a period in the early part of June where we'll get some extended rain days, and I'm planning on waiting until then in order to do the majority of my planting as far as this food plot seeds are concerned. That doesn't mean that there's nothing to do for the next 3 weeks. There's always projects that you can do when you have a habitat management plot like this. It'll keep you busy through most of the early part of the summer. So it's really something that's you better enjoy doing, because it's going to take a lot of your time. I spent some time a few days ago talking to my friend Bucko Barini, and he has done a similar project with his hunting property over to the west of us a few miles, and it was really encouraging to hear that he has done things in a similar manner to I have, and that he's had a very successful plot the last few years there. He has cleared some area and opened it up and planted much of the same things that I'm planning on planting, and it's worked out very well for him. So the rest of this video is going to be some of the projects that I have ongoing. They'll involve trail cams, some additional tree plantings that I'm looking at, and the establishment of a couple of satellite food plots, very small food plots that I'll explain as we get to that part. I decided to plant a couple of apple trees, one on either side of this food plot, as an attractant for deer, but other animals as well. Sometimes this can mean bear, which means that eventually I'm going to have to fence this off, at least for the time being, in the next couple of years, until these trees can get some growth to them to protect them a little bit. But normally people who work with food plots say this should be one of the last things that you concern yourself with doing. But being that I have some time here before I can go to the next step as far as the buckwheat that I'm going to plant, I decided that I'll put a couple of apple trees in here. Picked up a couple of trees from our friends down at Ely Flower and Seed, and have a chestnut crabapple and a Honeycrisp. And hopefully over the next couple of 3 years we'll get some production from these, and maybe have a chance to enjoy some of these apples ourselves, and whatever we don't eat, the deer and the other animals can have. So first on the list here, planting some apple trees. I'm going to be putting up a licking stick today. I've done a little bit of research on this and found some really interesting things. And the most interesting research I did is that I tried this out at a trail that goes past my house. Put one of these up, and within 2 days I had 2 different bucks that were at it and using it like it's intended for. The idea is that you take this stick and you hang it from a branch over one of their trails, or over a trail, and as they come along, they'll come and they'll smell this. and they will rub their pre-orbital glands on their face onto this and leave a little bit of scent. And the next one that comes along, next deer that comes along, will smell that and leave their scent, and so on and so forth. So the idea is the longer this is up and the more deer that have contact with it, the more information that the next deer is going to have and is anxious to leave their information. And consequently, over the course of time, this becomes one of the best types of trail determiner or trail director that there is. Deer will come from these trails, and in terms of here, there's a trail that comes in from this way and a trail that comes in from this way, and both of them pass underneath this branch. So if I put this here above where these trails are, hopefully within the next few days I'll see some activity here, and this will last. Now again, this is in April. You can put it out now, it's active now, it works now, and it will last all year. It's different than the typical mock scrape that you see advertised so much of the time, where it's only applied near the rut season, where you're looking for the bucks to come in there and get attracted to that and make a scrape and whatever. This is something that works all year long and establishes a pattern for the deer to come through here. So again, there's two trails that come in from here. There's another trail that enters this area from down to my left here a little bit. And then if you look at the far edge of where this little clearing is, there's another 3 trails that come in or converge coming from that direction into here. So this is going to be kind of almost like a pinch point where the deer are going to come through. And hopefully this is going to be something that will direct the deer through here. Once they know that it's here, they'll be anxious to see who's been through and keep track of that. So the idea, again, is that we'll hang this from this branch. It needs to hang down so that it's about 3 feet from the ground. And the reason it's so low is that, number one, deer have to contact it as they go by. They have to notice it. And secondly, you don't want just the bucks to use this. You want the does and even the fawns to get used to this, because over the course of time, that's what happens. They get used to it, they understand it, they come to look for it, and it's something that is natural inside their territory. Now what I've used here is a stem from an oak tree. We don't have many oaks up here. But I happened to find an oak that had some small shoots that were the correct size. Normally they say this should be between 3/4 of an inch to an inch in diameter and about 5 to 6 feet long. So with what I have here, if I hang this directly from this branch, I'm going to have almost the perfect length in order to make this work properly. So hopefully this is going to be one of the tools that will help me concentrate the wildlife along these trails to where I can get some pictures of them. And that's the whole name of the game. I've also started to get my photo blind / deer stand set up. I had it transported out here to the plot and have assembled it, and I'll be building a little shack on top of this to kind of protect me from the elements and also keep me hidden from anything that might come out. So got this started. We've got a ways to go, but I really like the position that it's in. The latest project I have going is to clear a little bit of overgrowth here on some of these cutover areas to plant some red pine. I have about 500 of them coming in a couple of days, and so we'll probably take about 3 to 4 days to get those all planted and in place. Now, the reason for the red pine is twofold. One, it creates some diversity in the area and some edges for the animals to move along and to use for hiding. It also will eventually end up being some bedding area for deer. It's going to take a few years for this to happen. They're going to arrive at about 12 to 15 inches tall. And the first couple of years typically are pretty slow growth, but eventually they'll start putting on 10 to 12 to 15 inches a year. And so hopefully in the next 5 to 6 years we'll have some viable cover for animals here that are going to be close to where my food plot is at, but will be far enough away so that the deer and other animals will feel comfortable moving through and staying in those areas. Typically, deer like to bed in areas close to where their food sources are, especially the does and the fawns. And the bucks, not quite so close, but not all that far away. The bucks like to use it as screen so that they aren't seen until they get right to where they want to be. So a couple of big reasons why I'm doing this. And hopefully this will work out. Again, we're going to need some help from Mother Nature here over the next month to 6 weeks to get some rain in order to keep the roots wet and viable, and should be a big but a good project. So the next few days while we're waiting to plant will involve getting our red pine planted and maybe putting a little bit of fertilizer down on the food plots, and just wait for the correct conditions, weather conditions to take place in order to start planting some seeds. So until next time, thanks for watching.